the fact that we can see how much every single Airbnb is making. Bought the property for $370 with a 9% interest rate, and she's making about $115,000 to $120,000 a year on that property. And so she's currently cash flowing about $3,500 a month.
Top 3 favorite markets right now.
350 markets. It's an outrageous amount of work to be able to go and understand which markets are the best. And I only have a handful of markets that I actually give a shit about. Like under 20 is study other markets and take those ideas and bring them to their market.
Google Trends, search words, looking up short-term rentals, obviously 100% interest spike, and this is an index, right?
Okay, I'll give some little things that I like, okay? So we try to find these markets where the purchase price.
John, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me. Looking forward to it.
So obviously, if you haven't seen him on Instagram or TikTok already, John, who is John Bianchi, and how did you become the AirDNA Data Guy?
So just regular old guy, nothing too special whatsoever. How I became the Airbnb Data Guy is self-proclaimed, right? So I had to choose a handle, so I just had to throw in the handle, right? But I have an obsession with Airbnb data. I love it. I think it's one of the coolest things about our industry, the fact that we can see how much every single Airbnb is making. It's so rare in almost every other business where you're able to see that. Like, imagine if you have a marketing agency, right? Imagine if you could see how much every single marketing agency was making. You could learn from them, right? And like hyper focus on the ones that are outperforming the other ones. You don't really have that with a lot of the other industries that exist. So for the fact that you can actually see that information, to me, it was just something that I got pulled into because I was so excited by it, because I knew if I could figure out the data and actually understand it, then I could raise money. If you could prove to somebody that it was going to be a good investment with data, it makes it so much easier to be able to get them to commit to an investment. And that is the thing that kind of got me hooked into it. And then I just kept proving my process over and over again until I felt like I had a good understanding. And then other people felt like I had a good understanding and were asking me for help. And I'm an opportunist. And so I built an entire business around that. So yeah, that's pretty well it.
Answer. As you think about, can I just prove that this will actually work with the amount of data? I was actually listening to a podcast with Agnes yesterday, and he said, if you haven't done it yet, just show that you've analyzed, made more phone calls, made more videos, and people respect the process. You don't have the amount of portfolios, and you were just getting started. And so you said, let me just analyze, how many Airbnbs would you say that you ended up looking at, then obviously making content on?
An outrageous amount. This was back in like 2017 that I would have been doing this research when I first got started, to the point. So what you just said there is that if you haven't done it, just prove that you've done a lot of work to get to the point of being able to do it for the first time. And for myself, I had the old school AirDNA software, Market Explorer, which I'm sure most people don't even know what that is. Investment Explorer actually is what it's called. And you could look around the entire country with this, and it costs like $6,000 for the year. And anyways, I researched as many places as I possibly could to get started to figure out what market was going to make the most sense to go into. And at that point, I thought it was 𝐇𝐎𝐿𝐴. Nowadays, I realize that was a huge mistake because I didn't look into the regulations first, but a huge mistake. And so anyways, I figured out that like 𝐇𝐎𝐿𝐴 was the spot, and looked through thousands of Airbnbs, but so many different markets that I went through to be able to get down to that point. And then I just used that to be able to like present to investors and be like, look at these numbers, right? Look at all these Airbnbs and how well they're performing. And if we can just do something similar, odds are we'll be able to hit that same revenue number, and we just would have to do X, Y, and Z and trying to break it down. And even the way I did it back then was a joke in comparison to the way I do it now, but it still produced results. So even the simple process still worked.
Okay, so just to give people an excuse to listen to the end of this video, John, I want quick stats right now, like rapid fire.
Yeah.
How many Airbnbs would you say that you've looked at? Like, just estimate. Is it in the tens of thousands?
Oh yeah, tens of thousands, like without a doubt. I've looked through, to just give a number because I have tracked this, I've looked through over 350 markets in the past year and a half.
Okay.
It's studied. So high level look at them, try to figure out if they make sense, to see if there's any cash flow potential. If there was, then I would deep dive them and actually build out a buy box and understand what to get and what not to get.
Okay, and then give me an example of one of your success stories of, hey, you have identified this market, or you helped this owner and they went from this revenue to that revenue. What would that be?
I actually just published a testimonial video of one of the first clients that was a retail client that I helped identify the property. She bought the property for $370 with a 9% interest rate, and she's making about $115,000 to $120,000 a year on that property. And so she's currently cash flowing about $3,500 a month, and that's with a couple of errors of improperly pricing, just getting started, and also that ramp up period as well. So next year she should see an increase in that. So she should make roughly around $4,000 a month in free cash flow from the one property. And that's one client. Another client is TechVestor, which is the largest short-term rental investment fund in America. And I've helped them identify 150 properties in the past 2.5 years. Every single last one of those properties is cash flow positive. So we have a 100% success rate on that. And we have also helped find, I can't say the exact number, but just under 100, let's put it there, of other retail people this year to help them identify properties as well. And they're all going to fall along that exact same idea that I just explained.
Okay, perfect. So it's working. Next,
Yeah.
value off the top.
Yeah.
Top 3 favorite markets right now that you like to look into.
And then this is the one thing that I can't tell. Okay, so here's the thing. Almost every single person asks me that question on podcasts, especially.
I know. It's the
I
easiest
want to.
one.
I want to. So I want, but I can't, and this is why. Because I have studied, like I said, 50 markets. It's an outrageous amount of work to be able to go and understand which markets are the best. And I only have a handful of markets that I actually give a shit about, like under 20, that I actually like and that I think produce cash flow really well. And I do it for 2 reasons. One, I want to protect my current investors because those people are still buying in those different markets. And if I tell people like, hey, here are my favorite markets, not saying that I have a massive following, but there will be people who will start only focusing on those markets, and it'll hurt the ability for my clients to be able to find properties that are going to be strong cash flowing properties, right? Because now all of a sudden there's 10 people bidding on one property because it meets the buy box criteria.
Give me this then, John.
Yeah.
Give me this. What's the avatar of the market?
So we have city markets, we have mountain markets, here's the thing. Okay, I'll give some little things that I like. Okay, so we try to find these markets where the purchase price is around 400 to 600. Okay, not all of them, but 400 to 600 tends to be a nice sweet spot for cash flow. Okay, so you have to think about your markets like that alone right there is going to get rid of a ton of markets, right? There's going to be a ton of places that don't work out. And so once you find something in that range, then you have to find where there's some demand, right? So where is there a location that is meant for travel? Okay, so as an example, we have a place that is a 4-season resort, and it's a mountain in the winter, and then it's like just this great place to be in the summer with golf and hiking and a bunch of stuff for kids. So it's a great location, but it's also 2 hours away from a major city. And so these are the requirements where you can find a location with a purchase price between 400 to 600. You've got some demand reason. There's a reason why people would go there. That's a part that, as weird as it may sound, people don't think about. They're like, they don't realize it's a vacation home and people want to go on vacation. And so then therefore, if you focus on location spots, it becomes a lot easier. And then there's that. And then also drivable from a city, and ideally like a pretty decent sized city where there are a good amount of people going, but then also being able to know that you can out the homes in that area. So it's also not good enough to be just 2 hours away from a city and have some sort of travel reason to go there. So as an example, if you're like 2 hours outside of Chicago and there's a snowboarding hill 2 hours outside, if that was the only reason, but then you go and look at the revenue and everybody's making 70,000, right? The best is making 70,000 a year, but yet the homes are selling for 500,000 or 600,000. That's not ideal, right? It's not going to cash flow very well. And so you would avoid that. That's the best I can really give without giving things away. It also varies. Okay. So like
100%.
Anyways, I can keep going, but I'll let you ask another question. We'll go from there. Is that helpful, or do you think I'm holding back too much?
It is. It is the biggest tease in the whole world, though. That's for sure.
I know. I apologize. It is.
Okay. But is there a spot where people can go? Is there a link out or something where people can at least get a little bit more jazz and get into the John Bianchi ecosystem? Where is it at?
Yes, I have created 6. So this is why I'm okay with saying this, because I actually haven't hidden much, right? So I've actually given a ridiculous amount away. I've created 6 free Airbnb data related courses. So every single last one of them is free. One of them is 40 hours long, and it goes through the entire process of how I decide what market to go into, how to build a buy box in the market, how to find the best possible property in that market, understand the amenities, the purchasing process, the mortgage, the design, everything. And so the way I always explain this to people is that I give away the entire process, right? And if you follow that process, you will get to the secrets, but I can't give you the secrets. And so if you want that information, if you want to be able to figure that out, what I recommend is going to shop.strsearch.com, and you can sign up for all of those free courses.
Okay.
Is that helpful? Is that at least better than nothing?
That is better. And I'll leave that linked down in the description.
Yeah.
Sponsored or anything, but
I appreciate you doing that.
Okay. So as we're talking about Airbnbs, obviously there was a huge boom during COVID.
Yes.
Now we're a few years removed from that. Give me how the market shifted and changed it now.
So out of curiosity, I think we talked about this a little bit, but did you start in the Airbnb world after COVID or pre-COVID?
No, I'm 100% COVID real estate investor.
COVID real estate investor. Okay. So there, in my mind, because I started 2017. So in my mind, there's this whole world prior to COVID that there are so many people who don't know about Airbnbs prior to COVID. So they always think like the Airbnb boom boom that happened. Like literally, like you just said, I talked to a ton of people who are in that exact situation. I always find it funny because I knew what it was like before. And like before COVID, I would consider it to be like the boom and the rush. So let me explain why I think there's a bit of a difference here. Before it was just steady and consistent and like markets were growing, their Airbnbs were opening up. You could go to these different areas. They were slowly improving and whatnot. But then we hit COVID, and COVID does a couple of things. One of the main things it actually did was just wipe out a ridiculous amount of places that you could travel. So nobody was going to Chicago. Nobody's going to New York. Nobody's going to any of these major cities because they're scared. And even like Florida beaches are attached to Florida cities. And so people don't want to go to those places either. And so what it did was it took all of these people that were stuck inside and still making money and only giving them a handful of places that they could go, which were going to be a little bit more remote. And so then all of a sudden we start seeing places like Gatlinburg and Blue Ridge, Georgia, just absolutely boom. Like that. So in other words, you just have a ridiculous amount of travel going to significantly less places. So that's why it felt like a boom. Now you also take that and you compound it with low interest rates and the home values increasing rapidly, and everyone starts jumping in. But the thing is that the reason I say I don't consider it as much of a boom is because you actually had a ridiculous amount of people that left the locations that they were in. So cities, like I had 16 Airbnbs, 59 Airbnbs out of Chicago. All of them are gone within a month or two after the lockdowns, right? Like I closed them all up. And now you have someone like me, and there's a bunch of us out there who had to leave these locations. We had to go somewhere else, right? And we start entering into these other areas, and then it becomes buying real estate becomes more exciting because it's so cheap and everything's going up and everyone's making a ridiculous amount of money because everyone has to travel, but they're only going to a few places. So anyways, I thought it was interesting to see the switch between one and the other, between pre-COVID, post-COVID. I definitely think that there is a lot of people got into real estate thanks to that, which is great. But it's, as an analyst, the writing is on the wall for someone like me. When I look at the data, when I look at the information, you have places like Gatlinburg where everyone's making money hand over fist. You have places like Blue Ridge where people are making money hand over fist. But the reality is that prior to COVID, Blue Ridge was not the greatest place in the world to be, right? It was good, was just not the greatest place in the world to be. And so then you have to think about the patterns of human beings and the way that the economy works and the way that the world works is that COVID is going to end. People are no longer going to fear the cities, and people go back to being able to travel anywhere, including overseas. And so then therefore, these places that are remote, away from the city, that people feel safe in, are eventually going to lose the majority of their travel as people continue to go other places. So to me, when I was looking at this whole boom, it was obvious that was going to happen. And we were in certain markets, like even Blue Ridge. And I was like, guys, we're not buying here anymore. Like you could see the tick down coming a little bit. Like, I'm done. I'm not proving a single more property that comes out of here. It's not going to be great. And sure enough, like, Blue Ridge just dropped off a cliff at one point, but the real estate stayed. So that's the crazy part. The real estate stayed at these numbers, but the revenue dropped. And so anyways, I said a lot there, but you're asking my thoughts on pre-COVID, post-COVID, right?
Yeah.
Am I getting that right? I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
You're passionate about the COVID side. I get it.
I am. Yeah. Cause I went through it. I'm like a person who went through the Great Depression, pinching every penny now. I'm always trying to like keep an eye out for these things. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I feel bad for one type of person, which is the person who caught the trend late but didn't realize it. And they were following the gurus who were still talking about how great this spot was, and they went and invested there. So I've talked to people who like bought a property in Blue Ridge in 2023. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, geez, what are you doing? And they get into it, it's not cash flowing well, and then they have to sell it. And it's because they were pushed to these types of markets because they're looking at content from 2 years ago, right? From 2021 and 2022. So those are my thoughts.
I like the content because I was gonna go back and do that too, because I feel like a lot of the viral videos where content was consumed like crazy back then are still getting pushed by the algorithm. And so if you're watching something from your favorite gurus, it is very easy to now get fully consumed into here's everything about Blue Ridge, and then from there already have some type of impression on where you end up investing.
Which is the process of everything that you're new to. If you're new to any industry, anything that you do, you watch the stuff that is the most viral, which is always top content, right? It's not super educational, but it's entertaining, and it doesn't necessarily lead you in the right direction. But as you stick around and as you learn more, you get better and better, and you learn the nuances. Because I think about myself when I first got started. Again, like I didn't even know about regulation, like thinking about regulation back in 2017 of going down to 𝐇𝐎𝐿, even though that regulation had been around forever. And so I just make these like tiny mistakes that you have to go through the process to learn them in a sense, right? But it happens. So hopefully those people did make the mistake, don't hate Airbnb, don't hate what happened, and maybe learn from their mistakes and want to try it again.
Yeah. And so why, obviously, I think we both don't think that the Airbnb market is dead, but that it's changed.
For sure, without a doubt. That's dead given. Like to
And
me, yeah, sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
It's changed, it's not changed because again, like I think maybe the point of that entire rant was that the way that Airbnb was prior to COVID and the way that Airbnb is now is the same. It's the exact same. It's just steadily growing across all of the normal travel destinations, and the Airbnbs are just getting a little bit better property by property,
Mhm.
right? And they was doing the exact same thing before COVID. It's just in this middle of COVID area where everything went crazy and everyone thought that people were going to be going hiking up to these random cottages and paying a ridiculous amount to stay to them forever, and that's not the case. And so then it naturally will go back to its norm. And so I think I see Airbnb as being in a normal progression of growth that you would expect any industry to be in that is a newer industry.
Okay, then I want you to justify my very quick thought process, not using any AirDNA, Data Rabu, none of that stuff. So here, let's play with this.
Let's see.
Google Trends, search words, looking up short-term rentals, obviously 100% interest spike, and this is index, right?
Yeah.
I do like to see though, this is how I know that it's not dead. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, then go click down in YouTube so you can see all what we're sharing. But I do like how there's still a trend line post-COVID, post everything up, that interest on short-term rentals going up. I am gonna, if you compare Airbnb, and I'll delete it afterwards, obviously Airbnb search trends are way more than someone searching short-term rentals on Google. So let's remove that. But still, same trend line that moves upward towards the
Could
right.
you over a shorter time period, just because there's a very clear spike and drop. If you do it over 1 year, I would love to see what months are lower.
I bet you it's going to be summer, winter, like a short-term rental again. Let's actually see how it changes between the two.
Oh, it's a lot less when you look at it this way, but what would that be? It would be
The
months
drop
ahead.
is here in January,
It's actually, it looks like it spikes mid-January. It looks like it
and it
drops
comes back up.
probably could you go to the first drop on the left? I think it's what, November? Yeah, mid-November it drops and then
Thanksgiving
increases. Yeah.
and Christmas, when no
Which is
one's using their phone.
yeah, yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay. And then let's go Airbnb and see what that pops up as.
And I think if you're looking at short-term rentals, you've obviously already booked it. So you're in your Airbnb if you have a family.
Right.
And this is very generic.
Yeah. Yep.
Biggest drop is here.
What's interesting is when you looked at the 5-year chart, it looked like this like huge drop, but for whatever reason, when you look at it this way, it doesn't look like that big of a drop, right?
Same drop here. But I wonder if it's just because of, I guess so. But I wonder if it's because it's compressed.
Mhm.
Because the interest here is 52 and that's 81. So that's a 30-point swing. And here is showing a 100-point swing. So maybe that's just how it's laid out. So it looks a lot more steep.
Interesting. But yeah, as you can see here, what is it like the past? Like clearly during 2020 and 2021, there's like bigger ups and downs. But then for the past, you can see there's a line striking right through the middle there, almost like in the middle of the chart. I don't know what that would be where it increased, but it almost seems 2021. It seems to have been steady since then. Yeah, interesting.
All right, interesting. So clearly not dead. People are still making money, both by us being on a show today about Airbnbs.
Yep. Can I actually state something? Because there probably are some people who are losing money, right? It's not everybody that's making money. So
There's
to
always
be
winners
like,
and losers.
yeah, that's the thing. The people who are complaining probably aren't wrong in the sense saying that they're not making money. Airbnb may still be steady, but as anything progresses, it improves. And it's every industry. It's not just our industry, right? Like look at cars 100 years ago compared to cars today. They're just better. So naturally, Airbnbs should be better as every single year as time goes on. And so what I think is really happening here is you have a lot of these people who put up listings that maybe worked pre-COVID and even like right as COVID was happening, but now they're just getting better and better. And the way that they're getting better is they're actually giving the guest more. So before, all you had to do was give the guest a bedroom, bathroom, living room, dining room, kitchen. You sold them those things, right? Now people are selling all of those things, and they're also selling a pickleball court and a volleyball court and a cornhole and whatever else, fire pit, hot tub. They're selling all of those things as well. And so now when somebody is going to buy, they're pretty much always going to buy the thing that is giving them more in comparison to less if the prices are relatively close. And it's the way I like to explain it. It's as if a Ford F-150 and a Honda Civic were the exact same price. Which one are you going to buy? 99% of the times you're going to buy that Ford F-150 because it can tow things. It has a truck bed. It has a bigger engine, like whatever you want to say. Most people would take that for that reason. Do you see what I'm trying to say there?
Oh, 100%. I completely agree, right? It's if you could stay at the Four Seasons or you'd stay at Motel 6 and they both cost $150 a night, which one are you going to stay at?
Exactly.
Size to be Motel 6.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing that's happening with Airbnbs, where people are just they're making them better, and the people who are not making money are in two categories. They either have a bad listing and it's just not able to get rented out the way it used to be able to get rented out before all these new better listings have shown up. And then two, they overpaid for a property that would have never cash flowed no matter how beautiful it was. And that's the other group of people that are unfortunately out there as well. So not everybody's making it work in Airbnb, but if you're strategic and smart about it, you can make it work. It's like
Full transparency, I'm still buying Airbnbs. We just closed on a new build A-frame that we're going to build over in the Branson, Missouri market. But I have a loser in Joshua Tree that we're going to transition to a long-term rental.
and
And
you
it's just,
actually, so just to call
yeah.
out, you're one of the people who, I don't know, this in the nicest way
Oh,
possible.
I was a sucker for Joshua Tree. Yeah.
Yeah, you were one of the COVID people that got into
Mhm.
Airbnb and got into a COVID market. And then you probably did really well during that time period. And then probably 2022 saw those numbers start to tank. Is that right? Because
We're doing like 95 grand. And then now recently, like we're barely making 50, 60 grand a year.
yeah, because you had all of LA trying to figure out where the hell to go for vacation, where they couldn't fly. And so they're all going out to Joshua Tree and there's a ridiculous surge in demand. But
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. That's another market that was like let's stay away from this one for right now. Yeah.
It works if you're like hyper luxury. And like you said, if you built out, which I think we've made
That's
fun with Patrick Switek, who's doing these, getting these gorgeous houses with boulders and pools made into the boulders. Yeah, 100% people are going to rent that still, no matter what.
yeah,
But if
exactly. So
it's
that's
the average,
example. If anyone goes look at if I've been studying Joshua Tree for years now and just keeping an eye on it out of curiosity because I think they have the most beautiful listings in the world. And they're just getting better. And that's the craziest part about it. So yeah, your listing worked in 2020, 2021. It would make $95,000. But now you have these LA people who are building mansions out there that are unbelievably beautiful, perfectly laid out, all the amenities. And so naturally, those ones are going to get booked over the rest of the supply. And that is a perfect example of an industry constantly improving and getting better. And specifically Joshua Tree, because it's so easy to build out there in comparison to a city market where, say, Dallas, like people aren't building specifically for Airbnbs in Dallas, but in Joshua Tree, they would. So you would be able to see the progression quicker in a market like Joshua Tree.
totally, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for us, obviously, I guess the lucky thing is that because we did buy it in COVID when interest rates were, I think I have like 3% interest rate, and we bought it early enough, not at the tail end of COVID, but at the beginning
Yeah.
of COVID. So there's a little bit of appreciation that'll be help. Hopefully, like right now, we could net even, transition to a long-term rental, make it affordable, and move on to the next one.
I'm sure you've got equity in there, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing too. So if you bought during that time period, it's not like you lost out on everything, especially all these people who bought in these different areas. Anyone who bought in 2020 is sitting on a pile of cash. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of like, how do you redistribute it or is it still working for you? That's a whole other conversation altogether.
Yeah, so it's finding different markets, playing. I've mentioned Branson, Missouri a few times. I know that there's more and more Airbnbs going into that area.
Dude, it's one of my markets as well that scares the hell out of me. So when you've mentioned a couple of times, I've been just like thinking like, how do I talk about this one? So
Let's go ahead.
I'm curious because so Techfester was buying there before I got started with them. And then I told them to stop. I was like, I don't want to buy anything else here. And it was because like the data wasn't allowing me to have the confidence that it was going to be the market that we wanted to be in.
Yeah.
First off, for anyone who doesn't like, and I'll do my best to explain Branson. I haven't looked into it in like the past year. Branson's one of these markets that's in the middle of nowhere. In a sense, let me state that by it's in the middle of the country for the most part. And it is the travel destination for a lot of these smaller cities to be able to go to. And it has a lot of things that the downtown Gatlinburg area would have, which is like a lot of tourist reasons to be there. And it's a market where developers, for whatever reason, have just been flooding it and filling it with brand new homes that are nicer and nicer and along the water. And it's really cool the way it's developing. And I could see it definitely being a great market down the road too. But the data, for whatever reason, was so hard to navigate and feel confident with it. And I would be reviewing the numbers and like trying to make sense of what I was seeing there. But there seemed to be a lot of seasonality in the sense that during part of the year, there was just like no one really going there. Yeah. And so that makes the data almost, not always, I just learned this, but it makes it inaccurate. So when there's no travel during, let's say, 3 months, people will shut off their listings or they'll block their calendar. When they block their calendar, the AirDNA algorithm thinks that it's actually booked. And so when they do that, the annual revenue is way higher than it should be. Yep, thank you. And so all of a sudden I can't trust the numbers because I can't believe that the number that I'm looking at is actually accurate or not. And so then I can't make a decision if the home that I'm going to purchase is going to hit the numbers I think it's going to hit. Now, there's a couple of homes that we have there and they're still cash flowing, they're doing well, but to to look at a lot of those new builds that are out there and decide if those ones are going to cash flow or not is next to impossible at this moment. Now, obviously you're buying there and you're investing in there. So I'd love to know like how you got to that point. How did you decide to do it?
Yeah, I think if you're trying to buy 100 versus buying 1 or 2, very
Yeah.
different data, right? For us, it was, okay, we have this 4-bedroom, 4-bath on a golf course. Like
Okay.
that just being on a golf course already, and it's been an established vacation rental for the last 15 years. And so there's this track record of just that specific unit, and it's
Okay.
been pretty consistent over the last 3 years for us, and we've taken it over. And then on that, I'm only buying one other one right now, and this is what I'm talking about, is that we're building a new construction A-frame cabin out there.
Okay.
That's by the new amphitheater. And
Okay.
so our agent, who's also the builder on that one, has launched one in a similar area and showed us his books.
Beautiful. That's the
And
best
so
data in the world.
I'm only making the opinions based off of like other people in that area, in that specific thing of what
Yeah.
we could build, and then that's how I'm breaking it off of. And it's also different because this is now a new construction A-frame.
Yeah, I love that. That's how you're supposed to do it. When there's no like good data out there, you got to talk to someone and be like, can you just show me? Can you tell me the proof? And we actually
Mhm.
paid a lady out there to hop on a call with us and just tell us all the secrets because she had been managing out there for years. And we're like, can
Mhm.
we just pay you and you could just tell us what we're missing? And she did give us like numbers. She's like, yeah, you can expect X per room based off of the home type, the location. And when we ran the numbers based off of that, it was similar to what we were seeing in the data. And it just still didn't have enough confidence to be able to be like, yeah, we want to pull the trigger on this. Having an A-frame in that market would definitely be super helpful because you're going to stand out in comparison to everybody else who has almost the exact same home across the board, right? So,
Yeah. I feel like a lot of developers built a lot of the like big 8, 10, 12,
yeah.
20 bedroom things, and they're gorgeous to like lakefront and totally everything, but there's a lot of them that got built that are trying to get in 20, 30 people at a time, and there's a market for that, but there was just a quick oversaturation.
Yes, and it's actually I hate saying that something's oversaturated without actually running the numbers personally, because I always worry that it's not actually, because I've heard so many people tell me that X market is oversaturated, and I'm like, no, it's not. I know that market very well. There's certain parts of it that are saturated for sure, but not everything is. But with Branson, there have been so many new builds, so many within such a short period of time, and yeah, there are these like 20 bedrooms and quite a few of them, and the revenue on them, from what I've been seeing, is not something where I'm looking at, oh my God, I got to buy one of these, right? Like I got to have my hands on one of these. And the more of them that show up, the less that people need them.
Yeah.
Like right. And then the more competitive they get. And then now all of a sudden the people that are traveling with a group of 40 or 30 or whatever, right? Like how many groups are they? And then they have 50 options to pick from. They're just going to choose whichever one is now the lower option with the most value. So anyways, I
Okay,
agree.
what
I
about
like what
this?
you're doing.
You break down for me. Let's use me as a case study. I'm building this A-frame. It's a 2-bedroom A-frame in
Okay.
Branson. What
Yeah.
are the amenities that I need to have based off of what you think in these mountain markets? Hot
Uh,
tub for sure.
yeah. Which you always got to start with the demographic, right? Because the demographic will determine the amenities. As an example, if you're going for a bachelorette group, you're not going to put a jungle gym in the backyard.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like the demographic for an A-frame 2-bedroom, which the part that's throwing me off here is the 2-bedroom, because if it was a 1-bedroom, it's a romantic getaway, and then everything becomes around that romantic getaway. You're more looking now at or 2 couples getting away or a small family getting away. So who do you want to appeal to? Do you want to appeal to a small family of maybe 2 kids, or do you want to appeal to the 2 late 20s, early 30s couples getting away? Like which one do you want to appeal to?
Yeah, and I've been thinking about this too, right? You think
Okay.
about the demo of who visits Branson it's a family and maybe even slightly older, I'd say, especially as you go into
Sure. You're
like
saying
the
like retirees and whatnot?
yeah, and at least that's for our other listing is 45 to 65 is who visits our other listing. This is 20 minutes away from that, so a little bit more rural, so it's an escape. I
Yeah.
wanted to steal Matt's idea of doing a whole Marvel themed house for some
Cool.
families.
Okay. Has Marvel, is there any other homes in that area that would be with a similar style that you could see proof that is helping or working? Okay.
No, we also did on the land last week, so I haven't even started to look at what design aspect.
Okay. I got a couple of comps I'm pulling up. Is it okay if I share my screen and we go through
Yeah,
them?
man, that's exactly
Yeah.
what. There we go. This is perfect. Let's run
Okay,
it.
cool. Let me get them up. So you know what? I'll start sharing my screen. We can start walking through it. Then you can watch me pull these ones up in real time as we go.
Okay. So while John pulls that up, again, if you're still listening to this, then continue listening to this because that'd be amazing and awesome. And then obviously hop back onto YouTube so you can see.
Can you see
in
my
the
screen
cam.
here?
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. So this, what I'm thinking is young families for you, because what I know about Branson, so I'll just go like Branson things to do with, yeah, so the first thing that pops up with kids, it did pop up as I was going through there. So you have this Titanic Museum, the Dolly Parton place, the aquarium, the Silver Dollar City, which I think is like the whole area there. So it's all about kids. I would be more so focusing on a young slash small family in comparison to the couples traveling together. Because again, everything seems to be about families here.
Yeah.
So then what based off of what you're saying, the idea of the A-frame, and if we just go and look at Zillow and we look at Branson for the audience who hasn't studied Branson thoroughly like both of us, if we look at all the properties that are available and we're looking at houses specifically, let's get rid of the must have a pool section here. And we'll just look at anything and we'll go homes for you. So a lot of these are going to be regular looking homes. You might get some of these sort of cabin feels to it, like something like this as well. Has a bit more of a cabin feel to it, but nothing that's like a true A-frame. Is it going to be a true A-frame or is it going to be something that looks like this?
It's a true A-frame.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so this is what most of real estate looks like. So you're going to look very different in comparison. That's a good start. And I want to go.
2-bedroom, 1 bath with a kitchen, which unfortunately, because it is an A-frame, it makes the actual like footprint of it a lot smaller.
Yeah, because of which
It's
is
just
the
you're stuck
negative.
like this.
Yeah, but regardless of that, it's still going to be it doesn't matter. I guess what I'm trying to say. Let's get in here. So what I want to do is show you this. I've got two that are actually very close to each other.
Okay.
In an area that have, let's go the listings. We got 66 listings. I was just looking this up, so it should be here. Let me make sure I don't have too many filters on. So I'm only looking at the 5 bedrooms. Let me organize this so we're looking at everything. Okay. I think they're 3 bedrooms. So this would be the home. So it's a 3-bedroom. Let's focus in on the 3 bedrooms. Apologize. I knew this was going to take a little bit longer. That's why I wanted to share my screen as I was doing it so that you could see what was going
Well,
on.
explain what you're clicking through though. As you do it.
So I'm clicking through different just filters on AirDNA so I can hyper focus on a specific type of home within an area.
Yeah.
Only looking at the 3 bedrooms. We're also only looking at what I would consider to be good data, which is the number of days available and the review counts. So I always want to see homes that have over 20 reviews and have at least 271 days available. That's going to be the closest to real data. And I want to show off this home here. And if you want to talk about those two last filters, we can. But this home here I find super interesting because it's making $109,000 a year as a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's the best performing 3-bedroom in the entire area. And you can see as an example, like this other 3-bedroom that is performing better than is a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Even if you were just look at like this photo alone, it's a beautiful, massive 3-bedroom, clearly a new build. It's got a garage door down there that leads actually into the game room, which is super nice. Beautiful listing, right? Like massive in comparison to this one, which is a smaller, romantic kind of place, right? And if I remember correctly, this place shows off families. So you see this like romantic getaway, but I'm pretty sure they also highlight the kids in here. Maybe not. I swear they did at one point.
And you're obviously pro people in listings now too.
I am. Yeah, I think it helps. I swear these guys used to have photos of kids, and I'm very, so it looks like they actually rebranded and removed the kids and hyper focus on the romantic side of things, which is also an interesting marketing move because maybe that's helping them drive more revenue by having something that feels more romantic. But again, I just can't imagine that Branson would be like the romantic getaway for couples unless it's like people who would enjoy to do these things as a couple. Do you think they would?
Yeah, I think if we take it from the face value, like the last time I looked at it, Smoky Mountain's got 12, 13, 14 million visitors a year. It's like the Branson, it got 10 million visitors a year. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, whether you're doing outdoorsy and you want to be on the lake, you want to do golf, you want to go see shows. Like that's the Ozarks play place for everybody.
Okay.
It's family. It's basically you take Vegas minus all the debauchery, right? And then you have all the outdoorsy stuff and every major outdoor market that you want to, plus like crazy theme parks and golf and excursions. So if you were a couple, like you could totally get away if you wanted like a outdoorsy themed getaway with still being able to come back into the city and have some fun and watch some shows.
Okay. So then my thought here is maybe do you lean into that then? Because again, like I really do think this listing is done really well. See how it has this darker kind of feel to it in the image?
Very
And
moody.
like these photos, it's not really showing off like bright photos, but it gives this feel to it that it does feel elegant in a way, right? And it's the place that would be unique that people would be willing to spend a little more on to create a romantic experience with their significant other during their anniversary. Like that's what's going through my head with this. And I just don't know if that even exists in Branson, if there's a single other listing that's doing that. So in other words, like
To
Go
give you
ahead.
some context, with the builder and the agent that I'm working with, he actually built less than 10 minutes. It's a one-bedroom cabin, or I think there's 6 A-frame cabins that he's gearing more towards couples retreats. And this one, on this plot of land, he wants to build bigger ones. So if you want to do either small families or small groups, you could, which is why I'm actually more inclined to go like the small group or family route.
I would push for small family over small. I really do feel like you would do a better job if you created you either go romantic or small family. That's where my mind's going with this, because if we just look at, we're right now, what we're looking at are the top properties in Branson
Yep.
for the studios all the way up to the 3 bedrooms. And again, I'm only looking at the properties that meet my criteria of days available and review
Mhm.
count. And if I look at these, I don't see any that are super listings. Like, I don't see any that are really beautiful other than this one that is clearly like a super cool listing in the way that it's put together.
And I don't see any themes on any of these either.
No themes, like this in my mind, a lot of these would be what I'd consider boring listings, right? Like, nothing really too exciting about the way they're put together. They're all using the fact that they are log cabins as ways to get booked. And so they're just not that intriguing to me. Do you feel the same way?
Oh, totally. It's what you would expect for a mountainous getaway. Nothing that like screams bachelorette party, nothing that screams
Right.
family. I kind of want to think, okay, well, if I was the one Marvel listing, would
I
that be the way to just differentiate? And there is also going to be 10 cabins built next to me. So there is that action there too. I am
Yes.
more inclined to be a little bit more like bold.
Yeah, I think you should be. I really do think you should be. And I'm trying to right now look at Gatlinburg. So one thing that people don't do for whatever reason is study other markets and take those ideas and bring them to their market. I think
Mm,
it's one of the greatest ways to increase your listing. So what I mean by that is that Gatlinburg is a more popular destination, which means you're going to have better listings that are going to be put together better. There's more competition is what I'm trying to get at, right?
yeah.
And whenever there's more competition, you just get better listings naturally. And so then if you can learn from what these people are doing and take it to another like market, which would be Branson, then you could essentially have one of the best listings in all of Branson because nobody's really thinking about it in that way.
I like
That
it.
that makes sense?
Yeah.
Even just looking at this listing here, look at these first few photos. What's actually interesting about this listing, and I haven't confirmed that the data is 100% accurate, but it's making $117,000 a year. And first 2 photos are like outside of the cabin. They're almost the exact
Mhm.
same photo, but then the rest of these ones are not. They're just showing like what you can do around the town, which is actually weird. You would think that you'd want to show off the cabin and what makes your place special in comparison. But anyways, let me go back to these listings real quick. I just want to point out what I was trying to get at here. This listing performs really well because it does create this romantic sort of getaway, right? Say you didn't want to go with that. Maybe you went with something like this. So this is a Happy Days chalet. This property actually has the design of the 1950s. So you can see there's like a
Okay.
jukebox over here. If we go over to the fridge and the dining table, it's got the same sort of as if you were to be in a diner. And this listing is significantly smaller in comparison to the other homes that's competing with. So again, like this here, this is the living room, that's the dining room, that's the kitchen, the dining room almost like on top of each other. There's no other common space, right? Whereas this listing that I just showed you is significantly bigger. Like it's got that massive A-frame and it's got the downstairs room to it as well. And if you look on AirDNA, that one's making 98 and the other one's making 97. So this one that has this theme to it and the feel to it is actually driving more revenue out of it. And I think that has a lot to do with how it's put together, but also the outside too. So if we look at this deck space, like great deck space all the way around. People in
Yep.
here, little fireplace setup, table setup over there. I think there's a hot tub somewhere around here too. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the last one is one like this, which I think is good. I remember when I came across this a couple of years ago, I thought it was great, but I've just seen so many other ones improve since then and get even better. And there's one more I wanted to show you if I can show one last one.
Yeah, but I'm still not seeing any as a 50s theme that you saw. A little extra
Mhm.
mid-century there, but nothing.
Nothing. Sorry, say that again. Nothing.
I was gonna say just like nothing like Marvel, nothing like
I think that's going to be super rare to find, but I was just talking about pulling ideas from other markets, right?
seeing if there's one in Gatlinburg.
The Gatlinburg. Okay, so Gatlinburg is a mountain market, right? Kissimmee, just outside of Orlando, is a family market.
Yep.
So what I want to do now is just take a look at a 100% focused on families market, and
They
Talk.
have themes up the yin yang there.
Exactly. So my thought here is if the idea was to get ideas from other markets that have extreme competition and have driven revenue due to that, then it would make sense to go and look at these properties and try to determine like what they're doing. So I think you already know this and I know it really well, but if you were to go and look at all these top performing properties, they almost all have extreme themes that are allowing them to drive more revenue. And it works really well around here because of Disney World, right? Where people are going, but it's also hyper focused on families, right? Like, that's why every single one of these places is designed in a way for kids, not adults. And so if you did go with that Marvel theme and sort of style, then it's likely that you'll be able to drive more revenue because you're going to be hyper focusing on families by doing that. Is that making sense?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm also more apt to that too, just because the business partner that I'm buying with it, both of us have two small kids relatively the same age, between,
How old?
elementary school age. So as visited ourselves, obviously our family.
Yeah. You with only having a 2 bedroom and going with the Marvel theme, are you just going to do a bedroom or are you going to do the whole house?
I would do whole house
Okay,
for
good.
sure.
That's the way to go. That's in my opinion the way to go.
Yeah, it'd be like all or nothing.
I wonder if you could do that, but also still give it that like
Mountain charm.
right? Like, you know how those photos were taken in the one that had that darker feel to it and almost like a romantic feel to it, but it was in the 1950s one. If you looked on the outside, had a similar look and feel to it and the way it was presented. And so I'm wondering if you could create the listing in this sort of Marvel style, but still have this very desirable feel to it. Because what it's going to do, it's going to appeal to the young families that like that style of a listing and are pulled into that type of marketing in a sense, right? Like they
Yeah.
want the hanging lights and the nighttime photos and the sitting out in the hot tub. And so they still feel like they are getting that, but they're also appealing to the family at the same time. I think
Agree.
that group of people tend to be people who have higher budgets and more ability to pay for a higher nightly rate for that kind of experience. And you're hitting twofold on that. You're hitting the Marvel side and you're also hitting the bougie. It's not really bougie, but it's somewhere around there, some word around that kind of idea. Is that making sense?
Oh, totally. For example, you take the Four Seasons, and the Four Seasons has the resorts everywhere. But if you went
Yeah.
to the Four Seasons in Hawaii, there is a hint of Hawaii and local culture built into it without being overtly, look at me, I'm at a luau kind of style.
Gotcha.
And that's what you're saying is, could you do it in a subtle way that
Right.
syllables, but also still gives off a very luxurious high-end feel?
Yeah, hitting the families and still having the hot tub under the
Agreed. And
hanging
that's
lights and the fire pit and all that stuff.
that is where I want to go. I just picked out the windows and sidings. We're gonna go black on black because I know that it's just sexy and that's just
It
frame. I want
Yeah.
a black one. That's it.
Painted black and add a hot tub is a joke that I've had with a friend for a very long time, and he lived by that, and it's worked out really well for him.
All right, but this will be, let's take, maybe it's Marvel's bad guys, and so it could be dark.
Interesting. That'd be a interesting take on it. I don't
Anyways,
think
we'll play with it. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's go. I know we have a few more minutes left. I want to go
Yeah.
last topic just to round this out and talk about how you've now self-branded yourself as the Airbnb data guy.
Yeah.
How did you even start to build this personal brand for you, and what was the end goal for you?
The end goal is to be able to do this for my entire life. So that's the goal, to be able to support my family and do something I love, right? But the way that it actually got going was I learned this skill of analyzing data. I got a couple of homes in Chicago. They performed really well. I told some people about that. They were shocked with my numbers. And so they asked for help. And so then I started to help them. And then I realized, like, hey, I actually get this a little bit more than other people. How can I help more people? Again, an opportunist where I'm curious of how to create value through problems and create a solution. And then COVID came around and wiped my entire business out. And I actually decided to change industries. I was done with Airbnb for a little bit there, over it. I went and traveled. I went to the renewable energy, and I eventually was like, I'm just done. But I had created this little mini course about how to understand Airbnb data. And it was just sitting on my computer, and I was like, that's useless. So I might as well do something with it. So I just threw it on this YouTube channel that was nothing at the time. It was just like no subscribers, toss it on there. And 14,000 people have started it. 4,000 of those people have actually gone through it end to end. And it was like a 2-hour course, and people watched it all the way through. And that little course caused some people to reach out to me. Right.
Okay.
And with that, I helped them through their problem. And then they would pay me. And then they would tell somebody else, hey, you got to talk to John. He can solve this data problem for you. And then it just kept snowballing and snowballing. And then opportunist, thinking to myself, how do I turn this into more? How do I serve more people? What is the mission of this? And from there, it just continued to scale and escalate, where we're trying to figure out what problems people have when it comes to the data and how can we solve that in an efficient way that allows us to be able to help as many people as possible. And the overarching goal of the company is to ensure that nobody buys an unprofitable profitable property again. So that's the objective, right? Which is a massive objective.
Yeah.
But if we can just stay focused on that idea, we find solutions that help drive the company towards that. And that's what we're doing. And again, I love doing it. That's how I got to where I'm at. And I just want to keep doing it for as long as I can.
Okay. And so now say someone wants to replicate that in whatever field industry they're in. Obviously, everyone wants to be a thought leader and solve whatever problem it is. You need an audience to get there. You've made some viral posts. You've gotten some decent traffic with your audience. What's the formula that's worked for you?
I had one person tell me, just post every day. Just post at least once a day, especially on Instagram, right? That's the only sentence that you need, okay? Just post once a day. And the reason being is because you're going to suck at the beginning, but you're not going to get good unless you figure out how to stop sucking. And it takes practice. And so then therefore, if you do it every day, you just keep getting a little better and a little better and a little better. And then if it starts getting a little better, you get a little bit more rewarded for that. And then that piques your interest even a little bit more. And then it's this compound effect, right? And there's a ton of benefits for creating those videos outside of just getting likes. There's not really a benefit to getting likes, but you are helping people for one, but you're also creating a name for yourself, which makes it easier to be able to talk to people and for people to understand that you have something of value to be able to help them with. That was my thing. I felt like when I was 21, I started in the financial advisory industry. Okay. And I would sit down with people who had retirement funds that were 60, and they're like, what should I do with all of my money that I got to live off for the rest of my life? And I'm 21. And so I always had to give this huge spiel of proving myself that I knew what I was doing for them to finally feel confident to be like, okay, this guy gets it, right?
Yeah.
Always, every single time. And it was very frustrating. And then I realized that social media actually just gives you that instantly because you have all of this, you've put out so much and people are like, hey, this stuff is actually good that he's putting out. It's not crap and it's useful. And then that kind of gives you that reputation. So you don't have to build it up every single time you have a conversation with somebody. You can just be like, go look at what I've done to see that I know what I'm doing.
Can I add to this? So
yeah,
I think the consistency is super important. And what I think that you have done the best is you take what is a goal that everybody wants to achieve, which is to generate revenue in a different way other than working a job. In this case, it's through an Airbnb vacation rental property. And this goal has a lot of people who want to achieve it, which then obviously attracts a bigger audience. And then you say, you start with the goal, this Airbnb is making $150K a year. Everybody wants that. And then you also break down how immediately, very fast, very succinctly, which is my favorite videos of yours, by the way.
That's good to know.
And so do that more, I'm sure. And then as you think about who you can reach, who you cannot reach, and if you're just starting out, a lot of times you really only need one person. Is it one partner?
For sure. For sure. If you can get started yourself, that's great. Sometimes we have a ton of clients that are partnering with their rich uncle, their rich dad, their friend, like whatever it may be, and they're coming together to make this work. And this is why I always say I'm not a great salesman, and this is how I've structured my business around not being a good salesman, because I give away the entire process for free. So you do not need to hire me. You do not need to give me money. I have made it all free. However, if you don't have the time or you want to hire me, you have the option. That's it. To me, that's like the easiest way to grow a business, because I don't have to try and force anybody to buy my stuff, where it's like, guys, do it yourself. I'm not holding anything back other than the results. I'm not giving away the market like we talked about earlier, but that's good to know what types of videos you like the most out of me. I will actually put up more of those, because it's good to know what resonates with people. So you're saying that when I kind of show like, hey, here's a property, it's performing really well, here's what I think they're doing that's allowing them to do that.
Yes. And then any hot takes on of why they're doing well, what you could potentially do better, all that stuff. And then obviously within the sub-minute format, because then people will consume it faster, and then we'll drive to whatever long form channels. But yes, I also agree with give away the strategy, sell the execution.
Yeah, it's a really good way to put that. Yeah, I've never heard it said that way, but that is exactly what it is.
Yeah, for me, I even have for the marketing agency side, it's investedcreators.com/don't hire me.
Nice. We got the exact same strategy.
It's so fun, but like I did the actual / don't hire me, just to say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I tell people all the time, like, you don't need to hire me. If you can, I have successfully helped buy almost 200 homes now. They're all cash flow positive. I gave away the exact steps to do that. It's not like I'm hiding anything there. And I almost feel like some people don't believe me when I say that. I'm like, no, but it's 40 hours long. It's a lot of information. Go through it. But yes, it's also a lot to go through. You have to actually build a skill to understand it.
Love it.
So anyways, yeah, man.
Well, John, I know you got to jump. And so lead people, where can they find you? What's the next step? How can they get in touch with you?
I always recommend that everyone goes to YouTube and just watches the video that I put out, because you're going to learn a ton there. And that is at the Airbnb Data Guy on YouTube, or just type in my name, John Bianchi, on YouTube. It's a really great place to start. If you want to just stay connected with me on a sort of more regular basis, Instagram is a great place for that, at the Airbnb Data Guy there as well.
I love it.
Appreciate you, man, for having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. And if you enjoyed this episode, obviously give this a share it with someone who is trying to buy a short-term rental and is like, where should I buy? This is a great candid discussion. And then if you want to actually see the episode where I break down with my agent and my builder that A-frame that I'm buying, you can also click that video here. I'll leave it linked down below. But John, I appreciate you jumping on the show, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me again.
All right. And I'll see you guys all next time. Bango. All right.
Perfect.
Easy peasy, man.
Cool. I appreciate it. Genuinely, I do appreciate it. That was a good conversation.